Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, British by birth, American by choice. And wherever or whenever you're listening to the show, welcome, whether you're listening live or whether you're listening to one of the recordings or rebroadcasts, welcome to episode 199. That's right, 199th show of Patrick Come Lately. We have a very special show tonight. I have a bunch of guests waiting in the waiting room right now to be introduced. They are fellow hosts from the network that rebroadcasts my show, the Red State Talk Radio Network, the premier conservative talk radio network on the internet. And four of them have agreed to join me tonight. And we're going to have a roundtable discussion to celebrate this milestone that I'm reaching, obviously today, 199, and next week, the 200th show. So without much further ado, I'm going to start introducing them. And then after the introductions, we'll start off with a topic, and we'll discuss that. We'll go around the hosts one by one, let them comment on them, and then after that we'll bring in some more topics. So I'm going to work my way down the list. The one that's been waiting the longest is, in a way, my boss, I would like to say, and that's Premo Mondone, owner and operator of the Red State Talk Radio Network. Welcome, Premo. Hello, Premo. Are you there?
Let's see. Can you hear me now? Yes, Stefan. Can you hear me now?
Can you try again, Premo? I think I can hear you now.
Yeah. I've had a really bad echo.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll turn you down a bit. Hopefully it's not too bad. Is that better?
Okay. Let me just give a brief intro, then I'm going to hang up and dial back in, see if that helps with the echo. I'm the host of the Red State Town Hall. Been on the air for 5 years. And also the owner-operator bottle washer for Red State Talk Radio. We've been on the air for about 3.5 years, nearly 4 years in May.
Okay, Premo, while you're redialing in, I'm going to bring in the next one that's been waiting, and that is Stephen Rosenblum. Stephen, welcome to the show. Can you give a quick intro of yourself and tell the listeners about your show?
Certainly. Thank you, Stefan. It's a pleasure to be with you on this milestone show. I'm Steve Rosenblum, host of CRF Radio on Blog Talk Radio and Red State Talk Radio. I've been on since 2009. I do analysis of news and current events as well as interviews. I've had the pleasure of interviewing a lot of high-profile guests, everybody from the late Andrew Breitbart to Colonel Allen West.
Okay, well, thanks for joining me tonight. Next is JimmyZ.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hi, Jimmy. Yes, we can
Very
hear
good.
you.
I want to thank you very much for having me on. My show can be found both at Red State Talk Radio and at thejimmyzshow.com. It is conservative, political, and social talk radio, colored by my irreverent yet Christian faith, which doesn't sound like it could go together, but it does. And I want to thank you for having me on. Thank you, and congratulations for 199 shows. That's, I was going to say real quick that when you listen to the big names in talk radio, Mark Levin, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, whoever, you really don't know how much work goes into the amount of shows they do, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, until you sit down and get ready to do your own one or 2 hour talk show. And I'm sure that after 199 shows, you can relate.
Oh, definitely. It's something I tell all my friends. You have a lot of respect for those guys. So, yeah, thanks, Jimmy. And then we also have our fourth guest tonight is Nathan Nephew. Welcome to the show, Nathan. Thanks for joining us. Quick intro of you and your show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And like everyone else said, congratulations on the milestone. It's a big one. So, and we need more people out there talking about this sort of thing. But I am the host of the Nathan Nephew Show on Red State Talk Radio, as well as co-host of At Odds. Both shows, we really just try to cover current topics and just wake people up because, as you know, we have a big problem in this country with complacency and people just not paying attention. So on At Odds, we tend to focus on Second Amendment issues and police abuse and things like that, and we're just really trying to spread the word, and I'm glad there's so many other people here tonight that are, doing the same thing.
Okay, great. Yeah, we've got a little bit of break up there, but I think we can live with it. Now let's see how Premo's doing. He's dialed back in. Premo, welcome back.
Yeah,
Is this
I'm
better
doing good now. No echo, so we're good. Just some kind of glitch. It happens.
Okay, and again, as I said before, Premo's kind of my boss because he rebroadcast the show on the Red State Talk Radio Network, which is a great network, and we have four of the hosts here today, but I have to say there are a lot of very good hosts on that show, and I've made a number of friends, some of who I've met in person, some who I just kind of meet through the internet. Premo, you're doing a great job bringing all these great people together, so thanks for that.
Well, I appreciate that. I wanted to mention real quick, Nathan Nephew didn't brag on himself, but he just recently won our 2013 Talk Show of the Year award at Red State Talk Radio. So congrats to Nathan while I've got him on the air.
Yes,
thank you.
Congratulations. Okay. I said today that we're going to have a round table, and basically what I'd like to do, I'm going to start off by throwing a topic out there, and then I'll invite you one by one to give your comments. Having done this once or twice and also participated in other ones, I think it works best if I kind of ask someone to speak. And obviously, if you're in the chat room and you really want to post a rebuttal to someone, then I can always, at the end of the discussion, we'll bring you back in to comment on what someone else has said. And once we've done that, then I'm going to also ask the hosts for their topics, and we'll see how many we can get through in the time available. It always goes quicker than we would like. So the topic that I did ask the host to think about before coming on, the first one, was really, we're in the election year 2014 now, and with all the scandals going on, will this have an effect on the Dems in November? The obvious question being, are we going to be able to win back the Senate? Or will the GOP mess things up like they seem to be so good at? And, so in a way, if you like, this is a very long-term, what do you expect to happen in November, hosts? And I want to add one, before I throw the floor open, I'd like to add one thing in the mix there. in terms of, yes, there are all those scandals, and so the Dems might fare badly. But if we see what's been happening to Christie recently, and I'm no friend of Christie, I do believe he's a rhino, and I don't think he's really right for us. However, if you see, a few weeks ago, he was a few points ahead of Hillary in some of the polls. And now all of a sudden he's getting attacked left, right, and center, not just Bridgegate, but now there's some other scandal about misusing some of his public funds to make a so-called almost kind of campaign TV ad and things like that. Is this going to be the fate that's in store for anybody else from the right of the aisle that's going to go? So, will the Dems use that kind of scandalous stuff to cover up their scandals? And let's start with Premo on that. Premo, what do you think?
Well, 2 or 3 quick thoughts. The fact that the media is now turning on Christie shouldn't surprise anybody. Just like they did John McCain, every time they find a, quote, moderate Republican, the press fawns over them until they get the nomination or become a serious candidate, and then of course they turn on them and just try to destroy them and try to eliminate the competition from the start. Secondly, about November, you would think with all the scandals that yes, it would be a good year for Republicans, but knowing the Republicans, they will probably find a way to screw the pooch, and they just seem to have a knack for that. And lastly, in 2012, I thought with the way the economy was and so forth, I was convinced that Romney was going to defeat Obama and defeat him by a pretty significant margin. Of course, I was horribly wrong on that. And I underestimated the stupidity of the American public. And so I don't think I'll do that again. So.
Okay. Jimmy, what are your thoughts on this matter?
Okay, on Christie, I am surprised that the media is attacking him to this degree so far ahead of the 2016 election. I'm also surprised because I think Chris Christie is the best chance I don't think he's going to get the nomination, but a Chris Christie nomination for the Republican Party in 2016 is Hillary Clinton's best shot at being elected. I would think that if the media wants anyone to run as the Republican candidate, it would be Chris Christie. On the issue of the elections in 2014, I think we need to be focused locally, because we're going to hear the media is going to run to the moderates and the liberals in the Republican Party in Washington, D.C. We need to ignore that. Conservatives need to ignore that and focus on their local elections, their state elections for Senate, their district elections for the House, because that's where it's going to happen. Obviously, the typical answer for the primaries is to work as hard as you can to get conservatives elected in the primaries, and then in the general election, hold your nose and vote R. I realize a lot of people, especially now, are sick and tired of doing that, but it is imperative that we gain the majority in the Senate and keep or extend the majority in the House, because if we don't have both houses of Congress, we're not going to be able to stop anything.
Nathan, what do you think?
Yeah, first of all, on Chris Christie, I'm not surprised that the media is attacking him the way they are. And he pulled the Obama of, I had no idea what my administration was doing. I found out in the newspaper like you did. But I think the thing here is that the media and the left thinks that Chris Christie actually has a chance in 2016. Usually they like to pick our candidates, people they think won't get elected because they're going to split the conservative vote. I think they're really worried about Chris Christie going up against Hillary Clinton. I think they're trying to attack him quick, soon, up front, get him out of the picture. Now Americans have a short memory, so they could destroy him now, and everybody will forget about what he's done, and after 2 years. But I think that's kind of the plan. As far as will will all of these boondoggles affect the Democrats in 2014? It should. Like everybody else is saying, the Republicans have a long history of screwing this sort of thing up. But I know in Michigan, for example, finally Carl Levin is out of the picture, and the Republican candidate is shoving Obamacare on the Democrat candidate, Gary Peters, saying he supported it. So, they're using these Obama scandals against the Democrats, and I think it could work out. Now, like Jimmy said, though, we always end up with, hold your nose and vote Republican, but the lesser of two evils, I guess, is the reality of it.
Okay, and finally, Stephen, what's your thoughts on the matter?
Well, in terms of Chris Christie, it should come as no surprise to anybody that the media would be hypocritical in terms of Christie's one scandal of closing down a few lanes of traffic, whether he knew about it or not, versus Obama's 100 scandals where they make excuses for him. This should be a learning experience for all of the rhinos who haven't learned from John McCain and Mitt Romney that if you're a moderate Republican, the Democrats and the media still aren't your friend. In terms of this year, 2014, there's only really two scandals that matter. The first one's the NSA, because people don't like the idea that the government is listening to their phone calls and reading their emails, even though they're naive not to realize that it was happening. And Obamacare. And Obamacare is the gift that just keeps on giving, because if the news is bad for Democrats that voted for it today, just wait till we're coming up on the elections and employers start canceling their plans in preparation for the employer mandate going into effect. And more millions of people lose the plans that they were promised by Obama and others that they could keep. So I think, although I would hate to predict, that Republicans will take the Senate and possibly increase their numbers in the House. Of course, I never underestimate the ability of the Republican Party to screw the pooch, but at the same time, I think that conservatives and Republicans have enough infighting going on that we could screw it up ourselves in the grassroots. I mean, we know Boehner plans to try to push amnesty through again this year, because again, he thinks that he can make friends with the liberals, and he's wrong.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, that's so, everybody seems to think we ought to, we might, but whether or not we will, obviously we've got to wait till the votes are counted, and hopefully the right people are counting them, because we know a little bit about that in Florida, right, Stephen?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Okay, so I also said, like the hosts themselves to come up with the topic to go around. So, Jimmy, I promised you would go first. So give us your topic. Tell us a little bit about why you brought it in, and then we'll see what the other hosts think of that, and I'll bring up the rear.
All right. Here's one. I mean, topics are easy to come by these days. I think that all you have to do is take a look over the Drudge Report, or if you're connected with a bunch of people on Facebook who are posting political topics, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of things that I never get to on my show because there are simply too many things to talk about. But I want to talk about these Benghazi transcripts that Fox News released portions of last night or yesterday afternoon. And we know that it confirms that Barack Obama was briefed on what was happening in Benghazi. But what it also confirms, and I think it's a very important thing for people to consider, is that during the Senate closed-door testimony, General Ham, and I'm sorry I forget his first name, General Ham was never told to stand down. And this is one of the things that's been floating around the internet for a year or a year and a half, for a long time. And people have been fretting over the fact that General Ham was told to stand down, and he said very specifically, he testified that he was never told such a thing. It also reveals that, according to these transcripts and according to the report at Fox News, that the military was woefully unprepared and unable to respond in a timely manner. Now, this is the most disturbing aspect to me, and I think this is what you get when you have a military run by people like Obama has put in charge in the Pentagon, because the military should have been able to respond. As far as I remember, one of the commentators that I listened to on the radio out here in Los Angeles said that the nearest people should have been able to be there within an hour once they were called up. And apparently that was not the case. And I think we have a lot to be concerned about with our American military in the hands of the Obama administration and the leaders he has put in place in the Pentagon.
Yeah, definitely frightening there, Jimmy. Nathan, what do you feel about that? And I think the Benghazi scandal in general.
Well, Benghazi, I mean, what is that? I've been watching MSNBC and I haven't heard anything about it. So I think he's exactly right about how scary it is that somebody like Obama, putting his cronies in place in charge of the military, and his goal is to just strip the whole thing clean. I mean, because militaries mean power, and that's bad, and we need to repent for all the bad things that America's done in the past. And I think this is evidence of that, of the whole idea of peace through strength is something I completely agree with. I think it works. People like Obama and the people he's putting in place, they don't get that concept, and it's all peace, love, and this sort of thing. And if you have a military, that's just, violence is bad. So I think Jimmy's right. It's scary. This was a little evidence of what can happen when you strip down the military, and hopefully we don't see too much more of it before it turns around.
Stephen, what do you think?
Well, I think that the biggest problem, in the over a year since Benghazi happened, I've talked to people that are ex-military, generals, ex-CIA, and the thing that always is said to me by every one of these people, the thing that disturbs them the most, is that no attempt was made to help the people on the ground in Benghazi. The attack went on for 9 hours. There was no way they could know when it was going to end, and they never even tried to help them. And for people that are in the military or in the intelligence agencies in the field, or for people who are in the diplomatic service in foreign countries, the thing that they always count on is what the military always says: we leave no man behind. And they always depended upon what former CIA operative Mike Baker always calls top cover. You always expect that they will maybe not succeed in helping you, but they'll always try. And this president has such contempt for the military, for the intelligence agencies, and apparently even for our diplomats, that without knowing where our ambassador was that night, he went to sleep, got up in the morning, and flew off to Las Vegas for a fundraiser. And that demoralizes the people that risk their lives for us in the field. And I think, to me, that is the most disgusting part of this story.
Yeah, exactly. Premo, what are your thoughts?
My biggest thing with the military under the Obama regime is, people take cues from their leadership. And this guy, we talked about, someone mentioned a minute ago about Reagan's philosophy of peace through strength. Well, Obama's philosophy is peace through bending over and spreading your cheeks. This guy simply does not. He doesn't scare me in the least little bit. Putin toys with the guy. he runs over him every time they have any type of encounter. He knows that he's weak. He knows that he's ineffective. The rules of engagement that we have on the battlefield now are ridiculous, and they're leading to American deaths that don't need to occur. I mean, when we put men on the ground and we put a weapon in their hand and there's an enemy to fight, they should have enough leeway to protect themselves and accomplish their mission, and they shouldn't be handcuffed by idiotic rules of engagement from some dope-smoking peacenik.
Yeah, and so I'll chime in here as well. I think that there's so many aspects around Benghazi that's wrong. I don't think it's going to rub off on the Democrats' kind of heir apparent Hildebeest. Unfortunately, because I think she was also involved just as much as Obama, and I agree with everybody else. You know, Obama is hollowing out the military. What I think is rather telling is the fact that General Ham, apparently was relieved of his duty. Resigned, they said, or was replaced about a year and a half early, so halfway through his normal expected tour of duty. And now it turns out that, he has got all this information that he was actually telling from the Pentagon. He went across to the White House and told them this is a terrorist attack. So I just wonder how much that's connected, the fact that he knew that information, and then they decided to relieve him of his duty. And I mean, the fact that they even do that, I mean, that's just, again, politicizing of the military, which is really one thing we should not do. But it is happening. We know a lot of key generals and other key leaders in the military have gone, and I think you'll find that most of them tend to be people who are not all that positive towards Obama, and they shouldn't be doing that, But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. I'll start at the top of my written list here. Primo, what about a topic from you?
Well, I guess mine would be recently, I guess last week, we had the 50th anniversary of the war on poverty. So we've spent 50 years. We've spent over $20 trillion, and we have over 80 federal programs to deal with the issue of poverty in this country. And essentially, we really have had almost no effect whatsoever. I mean, out of all that money, all that time, and all that effort, and all the programs, we essentially have roughly the same percentage of people in poverty as we did, 50 years ago. And so my basic question is pretty simple. It's that, we all know that progressives, it's all about your intent and whether or not it makes you feel warm and fuzzy. That's how they judge programs. That's how they judge policy. That's how they judge proposed legislation. It rarely, if ever, has anything to do with logic and reason. And so the basic thing is, I'm wondering, after 50 years and $20 trillion and 80-plus federal programs, when are we going to judge the war on poverty by results and not the warm, fuzzy feeling we're supposed to get thinking that we're doing something about it? Okay,
let's go to Nathan. Nathan, your comments on that. And perhaps I can add to that, are we moving into an entitlement society? Because I think that kind of ties in with that as well.
Well, I mean, moving into an entitlement society, or are we basically already there? I mean, everywhere you look, there's handouts, whether it's welfare, whether it's Obama phones, health insurance now, whether it works or not. And Premo's exactly right. All of these social programs have been judged on, well, they had good intentions. It failed, but they really tried, not like those evil Republicans that really just want the poor to be poorer, and they want to hoard all the money for themselves and all the wealth and all the resources. It's this sort of thing where we've spent billions of dollars on this. It isn't working, and you can't get it through the liberals' heads that the answer is not to spend more money. And I think in 2014 we have the midterms coming up, 2016 the presidential election. we have a chance. It's not too late. If we can wake people up, if we stand up and talk about this and get some of the right people elected, I think we still have a chance to turn this around before we are just a completely socialist state.
Stephen.
Well, I'm going to come at this from a completely different angle. I'm going to say that the war on poverty has accomplished exactly what the Democrats intended it to accomplish. It's gotten them a dependent class that will vote for them every 2 years for Congress, every 4 years for president, because they want to make sure that they keep getting their handouts. You've got programs that are fraught with fraud. So you've got people that collect their welfare check or their disability check, and they still have a side job so that they've got a great standard of living, courtesy of the taxpayers. You've got people that use EBT cards to go to strip clubs and buy alcohol. You've got illegal aliens that come to this country. I see them every day where I work. They come in, they've got their little brood of children, all of them on Medicaid or SNAP or some other program or some combination of programs. In fact, sometimes my friend and I, we joke as the people walk by, we'll kind of say, you're welcome for the doctor's visit you just got and the drugs you're about to pick up, pharmaceutical drugs, not legal drugs. So from where I'm sitting, the Democrats accomplished exactly what they wanted to, and all the while demonizing Republicans and conservatives for saying otherwise. In fact, today on Twitchy, I saw that Torre, the idiot from MSNBC, was saying that jobs is not an answer to poverty.
Okay. That's bad. Okay, Jimmy.
Let's see here. First of all, the unemployment and the statistics about all of this and the economic failure of the war on poverty. The information came out on the 50th anniversary, and I read a couple of articles at various liberal sites. One of them was Slate, I think, and their spin was that for 50 years, the Republicans have been fighting the war on poverty, and that's why it wasn't working. If we simply got the Republicans out of the way, then it would work. Then we would have had much more success in the war on poverty. And you and I know that's absolutely not true, because the system is designed to fail. We've heard that phrase a number of times in terms of Obama, but really, for the past 6 decades, the left in America has been working on a system designed to fail. But I think the way out of this is to, like the fellow just said before me, you've got to elect the right people. Because once you start turning the economy in the right direction, and by that you lift a bunch of the regulations that keep business from flourishing, people get hired, and once there are jobs available and people start to work again, that's what gives a person the self-worth and the inspiration to do more with their lives than sit on the sofa and watch daytime TV and wait for the government check to come in. Nobody really flourishes that way. And so if you start working, then you realize, oh my God, this is so much better than not working. And then little by little, you start to shrink the welfare system. But you can't come in with a bunch of Republicans in the House of Representatives and the Senate and the White House and say, we're going to cut back all of these entitlements, because people are going to recoil. And in the next election, in 2 years, all the Republicans are going to be voted out. What you have to do is you have to change the regulations, and you change the economic climate in a way that allows business to flourish, people to be hired, and then you start pulling back on the welfare state.
And I agree with that. I'm going to chime in here from my foreign point of view. I shall say, we've seen it. We've seen this all in Europe. Europe is is really the state of entitlement, and I've shared with my listeners in past shows. I'm ashamed to say, I have family members that I know that are on some or other program where they get money because they have a disability supposedly, but they go out and stand in the market all day and selling stuff, and as somebody else said, they're earning a double income, so they live very well, and that's very common in Europe, and it's such a shame to see it come in here. But I agree with Jimmy that if we just go cold turkey on this, it will be disastrous. We need to find a way to show people that, working is better, and perhaps we need to be slightly less generous with the entitlements and at least not let them grow, but make sure that wages for normal working do grow, so that it does become more interesting to have a job than not to have one. But we'll see whether or not that'll happen. If we get enough in the 2014 election, we can start on that, but as long as the White House is in regressive hands, then we're unlikely to do that. So, Stephen, how about a topic from you?
Well, my topic is a little bit of legalization of marijuana in Colorado. Bill O'Reilly and Mary Catherine Ham have been going at it for a couple of nights back and forth on this, and Mary Catherine Ham is not necessarily for the legalization of marijuana, but Bill O'Reilly's arguments against it are so well pinheaded, to use his word, that she's found herself defending it. And I have always said and defended the fact that I think that legalizing marijuana is a conservative position, because just like alcohol, people want it. It's less addictive than alcohol. It could become something that would generate revenue in this country and jobs, and frankly, the war on drugs has really been kind of an abject failure. And so, we always say, conservatives, that the states are the incubators of different ideas, of innovation. And I think we should let Colorado do what it's doing and see how it works out. I think that we should legalize marijuana, and we should regulate it and tax it and handle it in a hybrid way of the way we handle alcohol and tobacco, because one of the arguments that Bill O'Reilly makes is that if it's legal, more kids will get it, which is one of the most asinine things I've ever heard in my life. That's like saying if we made well, actually, it's not like saying that. Alcohol is illegal, but if you sell it to a child, that's illegal. If you do it with marijuana the same way, I think less kids would get their hands on it, because it wouldn't be sold to them by a drug dealer on the corner, around the corner from their high school. So that's where I'm coming from on this issue, and I'm actually interested to hear what the rest of the hosts think about that.
Well, if it's marijuana, then we have to go to Jimmy from California, obviously.
Brother, thanks. Look, I don't think that legalizing marijuana is a conservative value. I think legalizing marijuana is a libertarian value. And from what I can see on Facebook and on in blogs and discussion forums, legalizing marijuana is the principal and most popular aspect of libertarianism. We already have some articles where a school teacher saying almost immediately after the law had passed that they were smelling marijuana on high school kids. Now, obviously, that's illegal. They're underage and they shouldn't have it, but it's obviously easier to get now. And I think that without sitting here making a bunch of wild predictions, I'm just going to say over the next the thing that we have to do, because it is legal now in Colorado, is we have to wait and see. And we're going to have to watch over the next year and a half, 2 years. And we're going to see what happens in Colorado. I think the net occurrence, the net okay, I lost my train of thought. But the result is going to be a net negative and not a net positive.
But as Stephen said, we're letting a state be an incubator, which in a way was kind of, the way the Constitution was set up and the founders intended. Premo, what do you think? You're not smoking right now, are you?
No, I never, that's what's funny. I never did, even in college. Now, I was a professional drunk for the first 2 years of college, no doubt about it, but I never got into drugs, so whatever.
Okay.
My thing on that issue is really, it's similar to Steve's in the sense that I'm big on states' rights, and if a state, if Colorado or any other state wants to legalize it or not legalize it, fine. I don't care, because if I don't like the way things are in a state and I live there, I'll get up and I'll move. If I don't like the way things are. Where I'm at now in Tennessee, for the most part, I'm pretty happy. It's not perfect, but it's better than a lot of places to live. And as far as the whole drug thing, I know that today's marijuana is much stronger and more powerful than the old stuff back in the day when I was a kid. And whether or not it's a gateway drug or not, I really don't know. But, see, I just never have gotten into all that sort of stuff. I know a lot of people do, but it's just not my thing, because I like being in control too much of a control freak. I don't like someone else having control over me, so that's why I've never gotten into that kind of stuff. So I don't understand it. I don't understand why people do it in the first place, but, that's just me.
Okay. Nathan.
Yeah, as Stephen said, the war on drugs isn't working. It goes farther than that, though. Not only is it not working, it's getting people killed. We had the good fortune to interview an ex-FBI agent that actually started on the war on drugs back, when Nixon had got the thing started. And it was nothing like it is today. They would go after big dealers and people who are actually causing the problems, and not, the pot smoker down the street. And with the no-knock warrants and things that we have going on, people are getting hurt. Trying to enforce the drug laws, I think, more than smoking a little pot. Now, whether it's a conservative issue or not, I don't know. But I don't know how you can stand for freedom and still claim that something like marijuana or pornography or whatever it is be banned. I mean, you can't legislate morality, and I don't think that's a road that we really want to go down or should be going down in this country.
Okay, and I kind of agree with you and Stephen in the sense that I think, and that's perhaps the libertarian side of me, I guess my European background, to say, if someone wants to go off and do that, and Jimmy said it's, marijuana is not a conservative value, and I would agree with him in that respect as well, but I think trying to legislate morality, keep the government out of my bedroom, keep them out of my living room, what I do in my own house, I ought to be able to choose what I do, and just so long as it doesn't affect anybody outside, if I want to sit in a chair and smoke pot all day, that's my problem. That's not your problem. But also, I shouldn't expect to be able to go out then and claim a welfare check just because I'm not working because I'm smoking. So I mean, there are. You've got to balance it. You can't say, okay, well, now, I haven't got a job, so give me money, and now I'm going to sit there and smoke pot all day. But if I want to smoke pot all day, I don't think the government should say I couldn't. But that's, like I said, that's my libertarian side coming out. Let's have a look. I think, Nathan, your turn for a topic. We have about another 10 minutes, so we can probably squeeze some in.
Sure, I can go quick. I guess just bring it up for the rest of the panel here, and it's the liberal favorite topic, the Second Amendment, gun control. I don't think we're ever going to see an end of the continued attacks on the Second Amendment. It's all illogical. But I guess since it's such a broad topic, let's specifically talk about everybody's thoughts on open carry and using it as a political statement and a way to kind of get gun ownership out of the closet, and whether that's something that everybody thinks is a good idea or not. I think it is, personally. I know we have a case in Grand Rapids where a man was walking down the street the police come up, pull a gun on him, put him on the ground, handcuff him, and then eventually just let him go. And he just filed a federal lawsuit. So that's going on right now. But I think the people like us that are talking about this sort of thing, we almost have an obligation to keep this topic in the forefront and not let the liberals chip away at it like they have been with pointing out every small story of somebody getting injured with a gun, and the media never covers any of the times where guns save lives or where somebody with a gun stops the mass shooting before it really blows up, or things like that. I mean, I guess I'm just interested in getting everybody's thoughts on that.
And before I hand this over to the other host, can I just add a little bit to that? Their thoughts on why the regressives might be doing that. So let's start with Stephen.
Well, I understand why some people want to have open carry. When I ran for State House in Florida, I had people ask me about my position on open carry, and I see both sides of it. But my thing is, I'm a concealed carry permit holder, and when I go out, I often have my gun on me. And the thing that I like about concealed carry is that in places where you have it, there's actually less crime. And I think that the logic behind that is that when a criminal walks into a store or mall, whatever, and they have the idea that they might pull out their gun and use it, they don't know how many people around them might suddenly pull their guns and stop them. Open carry, I think, is a provocation to a lot of people. Even people who say they're for the Second Amendment get antsy when they see the gun out in public. And I think that, especially in urban areas, it's not necessarily a great idea. I could certainly see where in rural areas it would be a good idea. Like you live in Alaska and you might suddenly find yourself face to face with a bear. Open carry, not a bad idea. I think this kind of is back to states' rights and letting the states decide for themselves what works for them. So I'm not necessarily for like nationwide open carry, letting the federal government say you have to do it. But if a state or a municipality is for it, I don't really have a problem with it.
Let's go to California, Jimmy. Do you carry there? Because I know it's difficult to get, but and what's your position? Second Amendment.
It's virtually impossible to carry here. A couple of things I want to say here, and I'll make it quick because we're kind of running out of time, but everyone should be a member of either or both the National Rifle Association and the Gun Owners of America, and you should be encouraging your friends and family, even if they are not gun owners, to join the National Rifle Association, because the National Rifle Association is fighting the good fight on a number of issues that are related to self-defense. Also, a great thing to do on the radio show, and I'm guilty of not doing it nearly often enough, is reading some of these stories about armed citizens who defend themselves successfully with guns. Because they do, and it happens all the time, and like he said, it's not reported in the media. We're the alternative media. It's up to us to make sure that people hear as many of these stories as possible, because they are successful and they are very uplifting. And then finally, the studies that are done to find out over time whether an area with gun control laws is more or less susceptible to crime show very clearly. Even Obama's study that he ordered as president after the Sandy Hook shooting showed the same thing, and he didn't make any big deal of it because it was exactly the opposite of what he wanted. All of these stories show that when you have armed citizens and when you have open carry or concealed carry where guns are possibly there, crime goes down every time. It's not even a question anymore, and people need to know that as well. And so we were talking to the choir a lot of the time on our shows, but for those occasions when somebody tunes in who doesn't know these things, they really need to hear it.
Premo.
Well, I guess I'm probably more radical than most. I'm really pro Second Amendment, and probably as much or more so than Nathan. The thing about the Second Amendment to me, the part that I think people forget, or at least it doesn't get emphasized enough, and I still don't understand how this works, but the right of the people, in the last half of the Second Amendment, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Yet, explain to me, if it's not supposed to be infringed, how the hell is it we have thousands of gun laws and regulations all across the country, both federal and state? How does that work? How does that even happen? How is that even possible when it says clearly it shall not be infringed? Now, to me, that means it's an absolute right. You can't do anything about it. And I take that to mean that no laws can be passed to infringe upon my rights. Because all these gun laws and regulations all infringe upon my constitutional right to keep and bear arms. And how has that happened over the years? I don't get it.
Yep. I agree with you there, Premo, and I always shock most of my European friends, whether they're visiting over here or when we've been across there, because I've become a Second Amendment supporter, and we have a handgun at home, and I love shooting, I love practicing. So I agree. I did say, when I handed over this question from Nathan, what's the reason that the left is so against guns? Is it just that they're frightened of them? But I wonder sometimes, you go out on the internet and a lot of people say, well, it's really because they're afraid of the people having the power. And you sort of say, well, that in some ways that's very much tinfoil hat stuff. It's very conspiracy theory, but you sort of see how long, and it is mainly the left, have been fighting guns totally. As I say, if it's that much of an issue to them, there must be more to it than just, oh, well, we're doing it for the safety of people, because the safety has been long proven, as was mentioned, that, yeah, if you have concealed carry, at least, sometimes open carry, but you have a lot of people with guns, there tends to be less crime. And there's that new police chief in Detroit who came from Chicago, went to Los Angeles, then went to Maine, and of course he came from very anti-gun cities and then went to Maine, and his eyes were open, and now he's in Detroit, and he's basically said, when I went to Maine and saw people carrying guns and saw how little crime there was, he said, my eyes were open, and now I do agree that maybe, legal citizens having legal guns is not such a bad idea at all. And I think I've also mentioned on the show, I'm going to be leaving Florida and moving back up to Georgia, and close to where I'll be living, Kennesaw is one of the poster childs for that as well. They actually have a local ordinance that every head of household has to have a gun in house. It's a legal, not a requirement. Yeah, it's a requirement. It's a law that you must have a gun in house. And when they instituted that law, crime went down. But as was mentioned again, we never hear about that in the mainstream media, because it's always the bad things that happen. Okay, well, folks, I want to thank you. We've timed everything very, very well. We're at the end of the show. I want to thank you very much for coming on the show, my fellow hosts. And I want to say to my listeners, next week will be the 200th show. On the 100th show, I did kind of a fiction show, and next week is going to be a fiction show as well. I have kind of advertised it's going to be what if kind of thing, and I'll tell you a little bit more. It's what if I was born in America, and that maybe gives you a little bit of an idea what direction I might be going in. So do join me next week, and once again, thanks to my fellow Red State Talk Radio hosts. Really appreciate you coming on and helping me celebrate tonight. So to Premo, Jimmy, Stephen, and Nathan, thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations on 199 shows.
Yeah, and next week will be 200, and then on to more, because we've still got a lot to do, folks. And again, to the listeners, do listen in, and then obviously also 201 going on. I hope to get more guests on, more news and views. But right now, I think it's time to play that music, and because otherwise Premo is going to get annoyed that I overstay my welcome for when he rebroadcasts. Good night, folks. Ta-ta for now. See you next week.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide, so please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.